Today we are going to be having a session on national international linkages and the role of faculties. I am Apoorva Palkar. I am the Director Innovation, Incubation and Linkages at Savitribai Phule, Pune University. We are going to be having a complete overview of understanding of what is the role of faculties in national international linkages. How does a university or an institution that you represent plays a role in terms of getting a space in the international arena, and what is it that we require to do to reach to those levels. The questions that arise in our minds when we speak of national international linkages is that what are the educational institutions today striving at? Is it the research growth? Is it the education orientation to employability? It is entrepreneurship in higher education, or are we wanting to be at par with the global standards? We need to really try and ponder upon these questions in this session today. Are we really wanting to have strategic relationships with top class universities in the world to bring world's best higher education practices to us and enhance the quality by ensuring we keep the Indian ethos and strengthen our capabilities through such relationship that we may tend to build over a period of time with our educational institutions. Now, let me take you through the journey of what is the role of modern universities. The universities traditionally have been the storehouse of knowledge. They were, in the economic context, creators and crafters and producers. And by and large, I would try to put it this way, that university is clerical, a slight above the society. While presently, the universities have the role of being knowledge factories. In the economic context, the universities are the industrial mass producers. They are suppliers of the inputs and outputs to a technology developer. But we need to understand how are the universities going to evolve over a period of time. What is that knowledge hub that we are preparing our universities for? So, in the economic context, in the post-industrial age, the universities are knowledge driven. Universities are typically integrated institutions in an intelligent region. It promotes indigenous development and new capabilities, and that is what is the change that the universities have to bring into themselves. It is also important for us to understand how is the education evolving. We are in what we call it as education 3.0. We have moved from education 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. 1.0 was completely dictated. 2.0, which was socially constructed, and 3.0 that we are today in is socially constructed and contextually reinvented. Anything that we teach needs to have a social construct, and it has to be contextually very relevant for a candidate or for a student to assimilate with what we are here for. Let me give you a little backdrop of how university systems have changed. This is a typical classroom setup in 1910. This is how a lecture hall looked like. In 50s, the lecture halls actually changed a bit. Today's universities are completely connected universities. We have discussion platforms, we have the world that is getting closer and closer. The boundaries are slightly shrinking, and this is where brings the relevance of cross-border university systems. And in the cross-border university systems, what really becomes significant is internationalization of education. Increasing internationalization in research and teaching is considered vital for all our public institutions private institutions, universities, colleges. This is very useful in developing India's capabilities in research and innovation, driving up India's institutional ranking and increasing the quality of teaching and learning. In the whole process, the beneficiaries are going to be the teachers themselves. But teachers really don't know how to go about doing this. What is in it for them and how are they going to take this forward? I am going to be presenting to you a strategic model for education linkages. Let me try and explain you what is the strategic model for education on linkages. Now, I am sure most of us are striving. So, this is for our own state that we did a small study, and this study specifically speaks about how could we provide research growth and education orientation to employability, entrepreneurship in higher education, which will be at par with the global standards. For anyone to get into this, the institution, the university has to define what are going to be their long-term plans. It is equally important to decide what are going to be the medium range work that is required to be done to achieve the long-term plans, and what are the tactical things which are the short-term work assessment that needs to be undertaken by the institution if we really want to work on a framework of internationalization and linkages. From the long-term perspective, it will be important for us to understand how could we replicate the models of best practices worldwide in higher education, skills education, vocational education, by just about simplifying the small set of regulations within and around us. It is equally important to understand how do we successfully look at models for regional development through universities, educational institutions at par with international standards, and this could really happen through government to government partnerships, which could be the biggest goal at a state level, at a national level. Learner centered, multidisciplinary, skill oriented, employment centric courses based on best practices would be very useful for us to generate some kind of interest from an overseas party to look at our institution, our college or our university and our space. It is important to have mentor model to develop research capabilities in the university. And what do I mean by mentor model? It is possible that we may look at certain mentors to help build up research capabilities in the universities or the educational institutions. It is equally important to promote collaborations with international institutions, industry, research centers for fundamental and applied research. Unless we have done the first 5 things capably, we will not be able to get the right kind of collaborators. And last but not the least is the international accreditation, which will take us to the next league in terms of our acceptance to the outside world. Now, this brings me to what I call it as the medium range work. So, if this is the long term plan that we want to achieve, how would we go about doing this at a medium level? At a medium level, it may be possible that we may have to reach out, we may not be able to actually reach out to universities overseas. So, the best way of reaching out to universities overseas is through the route of consulates that exist in majority of our towns like Delhi and Mumbai. The consulates of prominent countries may be invited to present skill and higher education space and opportunities in India. This will open up our horizons in terms of understanding what is it that the specific countries are looking at. The second way of looking at it could be look at the multinational corporations operating in India. It could be even major business houses who have tie-ups with international universities, and they could be engaged with us to invent in talent pipeline and research initiatives. We need to look at large scale events to attract global universities to us. Formal gathering of all the alumni working as faculty members in respective countries may be invited to our institution, may be invited to our college. It is also possible that the institution could look at creation of a star alumni scheme working on best global practices to invest teaching time in India through a formal consortium. Last but not the least, inviting the best global faculties to teach to our universities through a faculty development program to our universities and to our faculty members could be a great initiative that the institutions could take at.